Well, in this dream, I was in the cosmetics aisle of a store. It was like it was brand new because everything was really bright and shiny. And I opened a bottle of pink nail polish, and this itty bitty spider jumped out of the bottle and landed on the floor. And it had this is crazy, but it had pink fingernails on the end of all of its legs,
Wow.
like a human fingernail. And when it landed, it started changing like a transformer kind of toy. And when it got through, it was way bigger, and it had scales like all over its body and its legs. Had a really big body, short legs, and it had just two eyes on its face, and it looked kind of. I'm really detest spiders, but this one looked friendly with the little two eyes instead of the creepy ones. And I wasn't afraid of it, but then somebody came up to me and said I needed to get away from it because multitudes of them were showing up all over the earth. And so I left. I went to leave the store, and as I was leaving the store, I noticed there were a lot of those spiders like all over the store. But when I got outside, I didn't see any. And then the dream kind of transitioned into a recurring dream that I have sometimes where I'm walking and I'm in this big like field, and I'm beside a brick wall, and I come up to a sidewalk that's got rails, and on the other side of it is a huge body of water. It's like dark, like the sea, and I feel trapped because I can't go back the way I came, and I can't see on either side of me. And that's the dream.
Wow. So when you left the building is when you went into the recurring dream.
Uh-huh.
And so
I've
where
had
were
that,
you?
the second part of it. I've had in other dreams with
Mhm.
different beginnings, but that same ending. If that makes any sense.
That's interesting. So tell me about that ending. Where were you in this dark place?
I was I was walking like across this great grassy area of some sort of field, and there was a brick wall, and then all of a sudden I'm on like a broad sidewalk, and there's rails, like I don't know if like the kind of pipe sort of rails, and the on the other side of that is a body of water. It looked like the ocean. It was choppy and kind of dark, and I really wasn't sure how I got there or where I was going to go. So that's where I wake up.
That's really interesting. We see a lot of dreams people have of like storms on the beach, whether they're tsunamis or they're tornadoes or they're seeing a storm coming in and they're out on the beach or out near the ocean in particular or a body of water. And I think what that is that's just warning of something that's coming, of a storm that's coming, and God is letting you know um, what that looks like. Um, the spider, the pretty spider, is interesting. A pretty spider with pink uh, fingernails. That's
I know that's crazy. Well, pink is my favorite color, and I have this issue with spiders. They find me. I mean, if there's a spider in the house, it will bite me. And we have our house sprayed like frequently so that there aren't any. But they, I can't tell you how many times I found one in in the bed on my side. Never, never on the other side. My side of the bed, and it's so I kind of felt like I don't know. It seemed like I was being threatened
huh.
by the fact that it was a spider, and it
Yeah.
was a weird spider at that.
Well, so this happened when you open up. What did you open up, like lipstick or lip gloss or nail polish?
Fingernail polish, and I'm assuming you've never opened a bottle, but when you do, it's got a little tube that holds
Yeah.
bristles. So there's not a whole lot of room between the bristle when it's still in the bottle, and the spider like somersaulted out of that and landed on the floor, and I was amazed, and then I wasn't.
Wow.
The pink fingernails though, that was interesting.
Yeah, I think that's really good. It reminds me of the phrase people used to say. You can put lipstick on a pig and it's still a pig. People are talking about Charlotte's Web in the comments, and the idea of a friendly spider or something like that. What's really interesting, excuse me, is the idea of a bug or a spider that seems to be harmless or that doesn't necessarily make you afraid, right? And I'm wondering if that has to do with, the medical situation in the world that we've been experiencing the last year and a half. The idea that there's, a bug, but this one isn't anywhere near as bad, and it's this, it's that, it's something, excuse me, that appears to be a lot less innocuous than some of the other versions or variants or whatever. I thought it was interesting how, as a person that is definitely not a spider person at all, you were kind of amused by this spider and the fact that it had two eyes and it still had the legs and all of that stuff, but it didn't, with its pink, excuse me, with his pink fingernails, it didn't seem to be that much of a threat to you. You weren't scared and like running the other way. In fact, somebody had to come and tell you, hey, you need to get away from this thing because these are appearing all over. So I think it's the idea of something that is and can be harmful, can literally bite you if you're not careful, but is dressed up to look like it's not a problem at all. And I feel like what that is that's a level of deception. And it's a level of deception that, excuse me, is occurring en masse throughout the world right now. And, there's two sides to this medical thing that's been going on lately. There's the one side, and then there's the other side. There's the side of people getting sick, and then there's the side of the stuff they want us to take so we supposedly don't get sick, and then people still get sick, and then there's more and more and more and more and more, and we can go down that road. But it's interesting because when you think of a spider bite, you think of something that pierces the skin. You think of something that it literally injects something in you, and that's what causes a spider bite to be so bad, because at best it can just make you itch and grow into a big bump, and at worst it can potentially kill you. So even though it's dressed up and all over the place to look like, oh, this is no big deal, and oh, it's this, and this is friendly, and blah, 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 and it's given almost like a human face with the two eyes, it still can be something that can be of harm to you. And it's something that I feel like in this dream you're advised to avoid. And so it's interesting. Go ahead.
I just find that interesting because I have pretty much refused to be afraid. I absolutely will not. First of all, I won't be forced to do something. And secondly, the science is not with them. And so I wouldn't partake of that under the threat of death. I just wouldn't. And I have just not, probably the first month or two, if I went somewhere, I slimed up my hands and cleaned stuff and came back home and cleaned stuff. But it's not really been an issue for me as far as to be afraid of it, but it's very concerning what I feel like how I feel like it's being played.
Yeah. It's interesting that the lady tells you to be afraid and yet you're not. It's also interesting that if pink is your favorite color, it's dressed up to remind you of something that you like instead of something that you're afraid of. I don't think I'd be as afraid of even a tarantula if it had pink toenails. I'd be like, dude, check out this tarantula. Are you kidding me? We can hang out and walk and have some tea or something. It's just, it reminds you of, it's kind of the idea of it, they're wanting to humanize a threat. But what I think is also interesting is, first of all, God speaks movie. And I think of the movie Spider-Man. And I think of in the movie Spider-Man, when he got bit, it literally altered his DNA. it changed who he was. And
Yeah.
now, of course, the idea is it made him stronger and better and superhuman and all of this stuff. That's the idea. And that's, excuse me, that's again how they try to dress it up and pretend like there's no harm here. It's just going to make you
Yeah.
stronger and better, and you won't get sick, or if you do, you'll recover faster, or this or this or this. And like you said, the science isn't there. It's just they're statements of fact. And what I also hear is, what a tangled web we weave when at first we attempt to deceive. It's the idea of, because I'm asking God, why did you use a spider? If you want to talk about this, why didn't you just use something a little more direct? And I believe because it's the web of deception, and it's the web of deception that's getting dismantled. Spider webs are great until the storm comes. And when the storm comes, especially if they're outside, you think of a big spider web like in Florida that's in the jungle or in the woods or on the side of a house or whatever, where they have a really big web that you don't want to walk into because it gets all over your face. The second the hurricane shows up, first of all, nobody cares about the spiders. Second of all, the spiders are running for cover and the webs are completely untangled and gone. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like the storms can represent, we even see in scripture how the rain and the wind would come and would wash away the whitewashed walls, which represents, again, the idea of deception. And so what I think God is telling you is there's been a deception that has been, worldwide, it's been all over. It's been out there in the public where people are trying to say, this isn't really that bad. It's just really not. Oh, it's cute. It's this and this and this. But you have experience with spiders and you've been bit before and you're like, no more. I'm not going to be bit. It is cute. And they try to put a human face on it with the two eyes and everything. But you're like, no, I'm not having this thing. And then God takes you to this part that's recurring, and it's part of a recurring theme for you, which is the idea of having a place to hold on to and having a path to walk in the midst of a storm coming in, blowing it off the ocean, which represents some of the biggest storms. You think of tornadoes are big, but you think of hurricanes, you're talking about destruction typically at a much different scale. And so storms that come in off the ocean tend to be represent, the power of the planet, and acts of God, of things that shift and alter and change coastlines and can literally upend a nation. They can wreak havoc, they can reposition, they can lock things down, they can do all kinds of different things, but they're acts of God versus a deception of man. So I think it's fascinating. But yeah, it's interesting because when you first started talking, I was hearing this, itsy bitsy spider, down came the rain, washed the spider out, up came the sun, dried up all the rain, and the itsy bitsy spider, it's the idea that it's an issue that comes back. But it's an itsy bitsy spider and it can be washed away. And so it's a very interesting dream. It's really fascinating what God is speaking to you here. Excuse me. Thank you for sharing that with us, Cricket.
Thank you, John. I am fascinated by your work. The first time I heard you, you were interpreting Amanda's airplane dream. And if that was, I would have never gotten all that stuff out of it. It amazes me. I don't remember dreams very often. And when I do, I feel like they're very significant to me because I just did. By the time I wake up, they're gone. I try to remember it and I just usually don't. There have been a couple that I have, and that was one of them. Anyway, I thank you and God bless you because you do a really unique, you have a very unique job in the kingdom, and I applaud what you do. I really do.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's, the gifts are from him. So I'm just
Amen.
happy to do it. I love to do it. And what I would recommend for your dreams is either have a notebook, or what I do is I type in my notes into my phone. But I'll turn I'll turn it on airplane mode so I don't get any distractions coming in. I wake up, there's nothing on my phone, and then I'll pull up notes and I'll type it in, and then I'll turn my phone on and get the flood of text messages. And I usually get multiple dreams in the morning. People will just, hey, I just had this dream, and hey, I got a couple of today. But yeah, that's what I do. Keep your phone on airplane mode, and then when you wake up, grab your phone, type your notes down, and then turn it on again.
For years I had recurring, what I called disaster dreams. The disaster was different in every dream, but my role in it was always the same. It was like I was the one that was telling everybody, be calm, let's assess what resources we have and what needs to be done, and a pastor told me that he found that when someone had dreams like that a lot, that there was a lot of demonic activity. And that kind of freaked me out. So I started praying every night, Lord, please protect my dream. That was the last thing I prayed before I went to sleep, was protect my dreams. And then after, being introduced to you and your work and finding out it means something completely different than you would first assume, I've started praying and asking for his dreams. So I will. But the problem is, unless I wake up in the middle of one, I don't know if everybody's like this or not, but I wake up really, really slow. And by the time I get awake, it's like it fades away.
I understand. Yeah. Well, he'll help you pray, and he'll help you to remember your dreams, and just continue to press into that, and he'll show you more and more. Thanks for sharing that with us tonight, Cricket. I appreciate it.